Hey guys, it's Becky and today I'm going to be reviewing Tempests and Slaughter by Tamora. One thing before I get into it is I did not realise that this was kind of a prequel book slash prequel series to Pierce's other works. Until about halfway through the book I thought this was a standalone book and I read it very much in that way. Someone actually told me when I was halfway through reading it that she'd done lots of other books and that the characters from Tempests and Slaughter, including Aram, our main character, do appear in later books, or I mean earlier books, but they're set in the future. One of the things I really found was that it was a very slow paced book, but this doesn't make it a bad book, but I did keep thinking, oh, this is kind of like a foundation book. It's a book about backstory, it's building up the world, it's building up the characters for a larger universe, a larger world for later books. And I do agree with that after finding out it was a prequel, as it's expanding on the backstory of these characters that people who are reading Pierce's other works have probably already been introduced to and haven't got that information before. I personally really enjoyed it because I love having world building and magic systems and kind of in-depth magic explanations, which I think this book does really well. Although I do think that if you are the kind of reader that needs action and adventure and like a fast pace to get you through to the end of a book, this one probably isn't for you. If you're in it for kind of character driven and magic and world building elements, I think you would really enjoy it though. I would also say that I didn't realise it was a prequel and I did enjoy it. And I didn't feel too lost at all, apart from how anyone would going into a brand new fantasy read. So it does work as a standalone book as well as a prequel book. I haven't really met anyone who said anything really good or really bad about it as a prequel book, but I've seen quite a few people have read it and realised it's a prequel book and they've gone, oh, I need to read all of her books now, because the world is so in-depth and it's so well written that you really do get kind of lost into the little details that she talks about. The book follows Aram Draper, who is a young mage who has just started kind of a magic wizarding mage kind of school. He learns all kinds of magic. He's really advanced for his age. He keeps going through all the different classes, he gets better and better and ends up having like one-to-one lessons with the teachers. This gives us like a really good basis for how powerful Aram is as a mage, which I think if you've read future books pays off a lot better, but for us it's kind of a setup for future books when maybe action does pick up and his kind of younger years adventure starts a bit more. This book itself is a lot about learning and about growing up as a person rather than defeating an evil antagonist or anything like that. Plus I really like the fact that you kind of see him develop and grow and get more powerful rather than just be told, oh, he's the chosen one, he's really powerful, he's the most powerful person we have. We get to actually see him develop these powers and start to understand them himself and struggle as well for growing up with these powers. As with any fantasy school, Aram is an outcast. Most of the people at the school don't like him apart from two of his main friends. Prince Orzone and Varys are his very close friends. They are with him throughout the book and there's many different aspects of their relationships that we see expanded on within the text. I don't want to get too spoilery. I don't really know what happens to them in later books. I don't really know if there's like a different dynamic in those books, but from the subtext of this book I feel like there's probably going to change throughout the timeline of Pierce's world. The friendships are really focused on and they're really evolved and in-depth. We get a lot of situations where the friendships have to kind of evolve and change, and they are discussed by the characters in ways that in most books probably aren't. I really like the character growth of each of the different friends as well as Aram himself and how they react to one another, and it just really works to kind of develop a realistic friendship rather than something that we're being told that they're really good friends. They really feel true to life and they react how I would think people who aren't friends in real life would react. I'd like to go back to my point about it being slow again, just because I personally really enjoyed the book. I didn't have any issues with it being slow. Whilst the pace was slow, I didn't feel like it slowed my reading of the book. There was a lot of basis of like magical lore and the friendships and all of the little details that kind of add up to kind of build a very intricate web of this world which is fantastic for anyone who's a fan of the series. And I absolutely loved that we kind of got that attention to detail, and I got to learn how the magic systems worked and how he's being taught the magic and how different people have different ways of doing magic. However, again, it is kind of a make or break for a lot of people. So if you think that that sounds really good for you and it's something that you enjoy reading, I definitely recommend this book. On top of Aram's two main friends and his teachers, there's kind of a massive rota of secondary characters that come in and out of Aram's life at key moments that teach him things, and it doesn't feel forced, it doesn't feel too coincidental or anything like that. It feels they're where they're supposed to be, such as the gladiator fights. The people you expect to be there are there, and they end up helping, or they end up pushing the story forward. All of these individual characters have their own little snippets of backstory which really pulls everything together. And there's lots of characters like Musenda, who I really want to see where that story goes. Whilst he's a secondary character and he's not really in the book that long, you do want to find out what happens to him and his family at the end. I will probably be reading the next book. I'm really excited to find out what happens next. I'm also going to try and get my hands on the other books in the series to see what happens in the future kind of timeline of these characters. Although I'm not sure whether I'll just wait to read the prequels first so it's less spoilery, or whether I should read them in published order.